Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Women's Public Leadership Network's Tips from the Trail series. This is a monthly series where we highlight different aspects of campaign politics, highlighting different experiences, perspectives from the industry and from the trail to help you if you are interested in seeking public office. We're really excited this month to be joined by Marta Salazar with Univision. She's the Director of Agency Relations at Univision's Political and Advocacy Sales Group based in Washington, D.C. Um, in that role, she serves as the voice for Hispanic voters throughout the country and can help evangelize on their behalf and reiterate the importance of speaking to this voter bloc as a campaign and a candidate. My name is Maureen McNerney. I'm our Director of Development and External Affairs. I'm also based here in Washington, D.C., and it's been great to get to know Marta over the last couple of years. So we are so excited to have you join us here and share your experience, share about the work that Univision does, how campaigns and candidates can take advantage of what you provide as a service. So with that, Marta, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, share a little bit about your background, what brought you to this point in your career, got you interested in the industry.
Thanks so much, Maureen. Love being here. So I started my broadcast career back in New York in 1989. Don't judge me. I always wanted to work in advertising, and I don't know, TV just seemed like the medium for me. It wasn't really quite the Mad Men kind of era, but it definitely was a fun and fast-moving space, right? So I worked for a few TV groups in leadership roles, and I really had a great career for about 25 years. But throughout those years, it just kind of started getting a little bit more difficult to really be excited about what kind of toilet paper people were buying or what kind of car they were driving, that kind of stuff. So I was just kind of looking for something that I could use my skill set for, that could somehow I could make a difference somehow. And so, because I believe that we manifest everything in our lives, right? I decided in 2012 to manifest a new opportunity for myself, where I could basically immerse myself in my passion of politics. And lo and behold, I found the political space, which I just thought was amazing. So what I really loved about it was the fact that the people that I worked with were about as excited about politics as I was, right? So it just felt like I was part of something different with this group. I love that it wasn't just a money thing, but it was more of they were looking to invest in a belief rather than a product kind of thing. And then in 2015, I was able to find the Hispanic medium. And as a Colombian, it was just fun, great to be with my people again. And as far as I'm concerned, this is probably the best job I've ever had. I love what I do.
That's so great to hear. And it's also great to hear and share, because there are probably folks watching that don't necessarily know that there are these niches within the industry as well, where they can sort of find their people, find their passion. And so I think just in terms of like the career journey that you're on and are still on, I think it's always great to share that.
Right.
I like to tell my parents, who were both engineers when I studied political science, like, I don't know what my job title is going to be. I'm not sure it exists yet. And it's just kind of exciting the more that we can kind of open up the different elements of this industry.
Right.
So advertising obviously can have a huge impact on consumers, can have a huge impact on voters. What are some key considerations that campaigns need to weigh when they're thinking about purchasing ads?
So coming from, again, the Hispanic space, I would say first and foremost, it's about engagement early and regularly in language, and then following up with the community. So I think that most people, when they're thinking about buying media, they usually feel like they need to keep English language and Spanish language separate, or they feel that Spanish language should be kind of like an add-on, right? But when you're considering a campaign launch, you're wanting to reach all your constituents in your district or your state, whatever it is. So I know, based off the last census, we all know that the Hispanic population is growing, that the top 20 markets are becoming increasingly Hispanic. And so what we also know is that markets like, I don't know, just examples, California, Texas, Florida, those have always been dominantly Hispanic, right? But it would be surprising for most that if you take a look at markets such as Chicago, Philly, Atlanta, even DC, those are now about 15% Hispanic, and they're continuing to grow, right? Hispanics are not just living in one area. There's a lot of movement and so forth. And so the communities are definitely getting larger. Hispanics across America, they're hopeful, they're optimistic about their future. They want to be recognized, and they want to be invited to the table to be part of the conversation. So basically, I would say that you need to speak to them about the issues. Like, what do you stand for? Because for the most part, Hispanic voters, Hispanic population is very about family. It's a very much, these are passion points for them. So when you're talking about the economy, it affects their family somehow. If you're speaking about health, it affects their family somehow. So they're very, very engaged. So, I think that the key consideration when you're looking at buying media is to not take any voting block for granted, and know who your audience is, basically.
Yeah, I think that's great advice and insight, especially around sort of the family ties and that sort of messaging strategy as well.
Yeah, right.
Can you tell us more about how Univision works with campaigns to provide this service? So a lot of our candidates are first time. So what do they do first? Where do they start this process?
So I always say educate and motivate. Education takes the longest. So you don't want to skip that and go straight to that turnout portion, that get out the vote. So my team, what we do is we can provide candidates and campaigns with a ton of resources. I think sometimes we forget we're a media company and we believe that we're a data company because we just have so much of it. But a lot of people just can't find that. So we're that resource for everybody. We can, for example, provide the campaigns with the Hispanic voter profiles. And so that basically is going to give you a snapshot of what percentage of Hispanics in that state, district, DMA. So we can, drill down, are Hispanic. We can give you party preference. We can give you age breakdown. What percentage speak Spanish at home? So how much are Spanish language dominant? How much are bilingual? How much is English language dominant? That type of thing. And then we can also do a breakdown of country of origin. So for example, if you look at a market like Arizona, 85% of Arizona are Mexican. And then the other 15% is split between South American, Central American, and Central, South, and Caribbean, right? So this is just important in terms of the dialect. So when you are, doing your messaging and so forth, it's kind of like you wouldn't use the same type of Spanish for a Mexican that you would a Caribbean or, Puerto Rican or so, that type of thing. So that's the kind of stuff that, these profiles can help with. We also do a lot of studies. We do an online study in conjunction with Media Predict. And basically what that does is we're able to assess voter sentiments towards current government. And then it also helps in understanding key issues that are going on and the degree of importance as the motivators for voting, which all helps with the messaging. So it's all about education. That's really first and foremost. Who's that audience? What matters to them? And then, your platform, what are your issues? What are you standing for? And how does that align with this audience? And we can help you with all that data. When we're looking at issues, Hispanic issues are American issues. So it's kind of like that magazine. Celebrities are like regular people, like they're like us. They go to the grocery store too. So, like it's just all about education is really all I can say, and we can help you.
So if I'm a candidate running for office, I'm going to Univision early and saying, this is my district. Tell me about the people that live there.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And that's what we can help you with.
Yeah, that's great. It's such a resource. And so I hope people really take advantage of it. And I want to pause for 2 seconds and say, if folks have questions for Marta, they can drop them in the comments. If you have questions after the fact, you can get in touch with us and we'd be more than happy to connect you so that she can make these connections and give you this insight into your campaign as well. So my next question is just kind of on in terms of scale and costs, because again, TV advertising, advertising in general is really daunting, I think, for a lot of candidates. Is it right for every campaign? Is it right for a state rep candidate as well as congressional? Or, how should folks sort of be thinking about and what should they expect in terms of how big of a buy they're making?
So you're right. So TV advertising definitely isn't, not necessarily right for every single campaign out there. Be that because of budget, be that because, how competitive the race is. Is it a state or is it a district campaign? So if, for example, you're here in DC, the media market here, all the television stations are going to be hitting Maryland. They're going to be hitting Virginia, Northern Virginia, and they're going to be hitting DC. And if you're running, let's say, for Senate, okay, great, right? A federal campaign. But if you're running for, right now, we have a Virginia State Senate race going on. If you were to do TV, at that point, what you've done is you are getting a lot of waste for most of Virginia, all of Maryland, and all of DC. And DC is an expensive media market. So, in that instance, TV, not necessarily a great idea. But what our team can do is provide a full 360-degree guidance to campaigns towards making real and effective connections. We can do that with our broadcast TV, with our cable. We can do that with our connected TV, with our digital, with our audio. So there's just a plethora of platforms and properties that we can help you with. And then we consider ourselves like an essential growth partner. So we make it easy for campaigns to reach your audience, enhance your buys, and engage the Hispanic community within your budget, right? In whatever way that is, in language and in culture. So basically, it's go where the voter is, not necessarily where you want them to be. You need to be where they are. So, connected TV. You take a look at that. I don't know. TV will always be king, right? I mean, that's just the masses and, how to reach the most people. But if you take a look at, let's say, the last 6 cycles, TV used to be about 75% of an average of a campaign's budget in advertising. And then you would go down, you drill down to like 15% was radio, and then 10% was digital. And now we looked at 22 at the midterms. Connected TV is at 22%. TV now has gone to 53%. TV still is dominant, but you're able to target so much better with the connected TV, right? And people are cutting the cord. People are just, getting their content that way much more than before. So I think that that's an area that's definitely going to continue to grow as we go forward. And it's definitely much more efficient money-wise, budget-wise.
And just to sort of back up for folks, when you say connected TV, you're talking about a Samsung Smart TV or other brand, right? That has some built-in 24/7 programming, streaming services, et cetera, which is great because it offers essentially the kind of household targeting that I feel like everyone associates with digital.
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, Univision launched the first ever Hispanic household graph. And because of that type of connectedness with the Samsungs, with just various data out there, we're able to actually target Hispanics that are watching NBC.
Mm.
So a lot of people think, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to go on to, Univision. I'm going to go and get, I'm going to buy this thing and I'm going to get Hispanics that way. And lots of times what's happening is third party data companies will say, oh, a Hispanic is based off of surname or geography, right? And so with all the data that we've been able to compile, we are now able to say, no, hold on a second. With this graph, we'll be able to reach people that have engaged with Univision content over the last 6 months. We'll be able to engage with people that have engaged with Univision content, but not in the last 6 months. And then we can also target people that have engaged in Spanish language media, regardless if it's Univision, Telemundo, whoever, but have engaged in Spanish language media. And then we're able to layer that so that, again, if they're over at NBC, it's really the Univision audience that they're actually getting. Follow? So it's a really cool household graph that we're able to layer into all of our digital properties, and it's our audio, our streaming, all of it. And so now we're able to, at Univision, it's like 90+% accuracy and scale of the Hispanic voter.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
great. It's like you really represent the Hispanic voter, can, find them again where they are.
Where they are.
And I think it's helping sort of break down assumptions too that may have been made up until this point about where to find that community and how to communicate with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So with that, what are some common myths or misconceptions about Hispanic voters?
Oh, I love that one. Those myths, they're so cool. So I would say the number one myth is that you can reach Hispanic audiences through general marketing advertising. Not true, because it's crazy. I've worked at the DC station. I've seen it firsthand, because if you had just told me, I've been like, come on, that can't be true. But there is a loyalty to this audience that's amazing. Like, they will literally call the TV station and be like, okay, I just saw blah, 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 blah on TV, and I need to find out like more about that. Can you share? Is it really true? Can he really do that? Blah, blah, blah. We've had people call up and say, can you help me figure out how to fill out my voter registration card? Can you help me with this? So it's just, there's this trust between this audience and this network, which is pretty amazing. You don't really see that in the general market. So when you're, for example, on an NBC or ABC or whatever, yeah, there are Hispanics that are watching, no doubt. But you're also, it depends on the market, but on an average, you're missing about 95% of the Univision audience that will never watch English language content. They're just not doing it. They're only watching it. That's mostly like in the news, sports, prime time, like those big key areas, right? And not to say that 97% of Hispanics are not watching English language. That's not the case. It's 97% of our audience, the Univision audience. So I would say that would be the number one myth that people just kind of don't. They were like, oh no, we'll get it with Pandora. You're missing a big chunk if you do that. I would say also another myth is Democratic candidates can already count on the Hispanic vote, right? But if you take a look, Hispanic voters are incredibly persuadable. Nearly a third of registered voters are registered as independents. So, the whole thing about when I said earlier, engage early and consistently, is the fact that they will listen to you. They will actually they'll pay attention. It's like, oh, this is going to change somehow. And it's not like the general market in that they're really affiliated to a party. We're not so much affiliated to parties as we are candidates. So we can be Democrat this one, Republican for the next, and vice versa. It's just really what do you stand for?
Yeah.
Another one is top issues facing you as Hispanics is immigration. Well, guess what? Inflation, gas prices, abortion rights, mass shootings, gun safety. These are the top priorities that Hispanics are caring about. Again, Hispanics are just like everybody else. We care about everything that everybody else is caring about. How does it affect my family? That is what I care about.
Yeah, that's great. And one thing you mentioned there in terms of timing, what's the best time to begin advertising specifically to Hispanic audiences? You
Yeah, I
mentioned
would.
early, but like how early and why?
So we've seen with with other campaigns and so forth that early investment is key. So not to be weird, but everybody has this idea that Hispanics are late for everything, because we are. We are late. You invite me to dinner at 7 p.m. Guaranteed I'm there at 7:15, not 7:30, not because I'm rude, simply because as a Hispanic, we want to be cordial to our host. We know you've been running around getting things ready, so we want to give you a minute to breathe before everybody gets there, right? But the only thing that Hispanics are ever on time for is voting. They love voting early. They want to make sure that they are being heard and that their vote counts. And so they're rushing and they're doing. And now with the early voting being, mail-in voting being pretty popular, it's perfect for them. So if you're waiting till the last 2 or 3 weeks of your campaign, you've already lost this entire group, because guess what? With or without you, they're there already. So I would say timing is when you activate an English language, activate on Spanish language, not to be used as a later on, as an add-on. It's just, this is a swing block. This is a voting block that can make a difference in your campaign. And so just like you would target the soccer mom or the whatever, this is a target that you want to get into early and often.
Yeah, that's great. And super important. I hope sort of everyone's taking that to heart when they're thinking. I mean, I think it's great on a number of reasons. We should be having campaigns and running in an equitable way, in a way that shows how we're going to govern as representative of everyone that lives in the district.
Right.
And it starts demonstrating those values as part of your campaign and can be part of your campaign strategy. So I'm curious, because obviously, we've talked about tips that I think are really helpful to someone, regardless of which side of the aisle they're running on, their background, whether they're male or female. But, we're focused on uplifting women that want to run for office. Do you have any particular tips for women that are running, examples of effective messaging that maybe you've seen by women candidates?
I actually liked the race last cycle between Cortez Masto and Adam Laxalt in Nevada. The matchup was supposed to be at best a 2-point race. And you take a look at 2016 and 2020, those were, they felt that way because that's what it was then, right? It was about 2.5, both cycles. Nevada has seen some definite demographic shifts throughout, which is what makes the state, it's been making the state so competitive. And it's a uniquely transient kind of state. So unaffiliated voters became the largest bloc in Nevada in 22. So what I liked about Cortez was that she targeted the Nevada Hispanic voter through moderate messaging. It's centered around women's rights. It's centered around right to vote, medical insurance for all, DACA. She kind of hit a lot of things. She participated in a lot of station-led events, interviews, debates. She was just involved. She was within the community. And her campaign went up early It stayed up the entire time. It was in language and was in culture. And she also did something cool where she just really made a point of reaching out to all Hispanic-owned businesses so that they wouldn't feel like they were being forgotten out there by Washington lawmakers, if you will. And so she basically narrowly defeated Black Salt by only 9,000 votes. That was it. So I always love that story because it's like, we showed case studies from 22 where, in Florida and Arizona, you had two governors running. One engaged early and often and won. One chose not to and lost. Mm-hmm. So it really is just about just being respectful and letting them know that you care about their vote because they will listen and come.
And they can make the difference.
And they can make the difference. Yeah. Yeah. I was taking a look at Trump in 20. And do you know that he did not go into Nevada for Spanish language?
I did not know that. No.
Blew my mind when I saw that. And there were markets like Georgia where what he needed 11,000 votes. And I think with just the unaffiliated, independent registered voters in the market, I think that there was about 200,000 votes that were up for grabs, but he never made the investment. And therefore, so especially tight races makes a big, big difference.
Absolutely. I do want to, again, open it up for audience questions. I know we have one, but I sort of want to lead with one of my own, just around that sort of last point. It's an earlier point that you made about the diversity within the Hispanic community. And then I think it's sort of reinforced when we think about states like Georgia, states like Arizona. You mentioned the demographic breakdown, but I think some people are afraid of the perfect being the enemy of the good, and not necessarily knowing the differences between the communities and what to say to whom and et cetera. But is there some truth to the idea that something is better than nothing, and that it's important to go up with what you can?
Yes, but please stay away from Google
Translate.
Yes. Translate. Just stay away from that. You can go to a college and get volunteers that way that can help you write your messaging. Just what you just don't want to do is take that one, and this is obviously for, a presidential. You're not going to want to take that one ad that's geared towards Mexicans and run it all through Boston and Florida, Boston. Is that they will actually be annoyed.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, really? That, like, do you not know who are we? There's like no Mexicans here. Why would you be speaking this way or whatever? So it's kind of dangerous to say something is better than nothing. But we can even help at Univision. We help with creative, with the creative and the translations and so forth. So it doesn't have to be a thing where you're spending a ton of money to have this done professionally. But yeah, you really want to know who that audience is and make sure that you're not offending any one person. By the same token, don't go down the rabbit hole that because, 85% is one origin, and then you got 15 that you have to do a commercial for each and every one. Now, if you've got a 20-20-20, then perhaps you want to do at least two, right? But just as long as the majority is the right audience, the right group, you should be fine.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and that's kind of my experience having managed campaigns up in Boston too, is that every person will get in a candidate's ear and say like, no, it's so important that you rewrite everything for this, small group in some cases.
Right.
And campaigns have limited resources, but I think, understanding, okay, the makeup, the majority,
Right.
the impact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The
And
fun.
your resources at Univision can help everyone run the math on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, we do have one more question, and then I want to wrap, and because I'm so grateful for your time. But it's just kind of a broad question of what do you think are some challenges in this industry? What's a challenging part of your job?
I think the challenging part of my job is what kind of goes back to that myth that everybody believes that Hispanics are Democrat.
Mm.
We're not a monolith, right? I think that's the biggest one. So what happened was the Democratic Party started taking this group for granted. And then the GOP said, oh, wait a second, click. The same values that the party stands for are the same values that Hispanics stand for. Oh, so let's engage. But yet, with the millions and millions of dollars that have been spent in these campaigns over the last 2 or 4 cycles, this past one in 2022, with all the growth that we've seen, with all the increases where it's like, okay, yeah, we have to step up, and we're definitely out there more with Hispanics. We only saw 2.1% spend on the Democratic side to Hispanic voters, and that's all Spanish media, and only 0.6% from the Republican.
Yeah,
that's it's 20% of the population is Hispanic, and you're going to do 0.6%. Really?
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest one, but it keeps us working.
Yeah. I mean, it's truly, again, if you want as a candidate to say, I care about the folks that live here, I think having a strategy and an outreach strategy and a plan and a spend that reflects reaching the voters that live in your district is so important.
Absolutely.
I hope folks take it to heart, and I hope they sort of know more about how the process can be easier than maybe they're thinking. Optimistically, maybe folks haven't done this type of advertising because they just don't know enough about it. And watching this will hopefully be that helpful first step, get them thinking, get them understanding that this is an audience that's understandable, that there's data on, that there's a partner in Univision to really help them through the process, and that we'll get some more folks up and advertising and using this as, again, part of a winning strategy.
Love that.
So we are so grateful for you lending your time and expertise to share all of this information. Again, for anyone that's watching that wants to connect with Marta and her team, please email hello@womenspublicleadership.net. I will be more than happy to connect you. And if you have any additional questions or want to suggest a future topic for a Facebook Live for a Tips from the Trail series episode, please let us know. And with that, just thank you again so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.